I died on what should have been the happiest day of my life, my daughter's wedding day. I was standing in the bridal suite, helping her adjust her veil, when she turned to me with a smile I'd never seen before. Cold. Triumphant. "I need to tell you something, Mom," she said. "The groom isn't who you think he is." Before I could ask what she meant, she opened the door. My husband of 28 years, walked in wearing a tuxedo, a bouquet in his hands. "Surprise," my daughter whispered. "I'm marrying Daddy." I felt the room spin. "This is a joke. Claire, this isn't funny." "It's not a joke," my husband David said, not meeting my eyes. "Claire and we're in love. We have been for years." "Years." My voice broke. "She's your daughter." "Stepdaughter," Claire corrected. "Biologically, we're not related. And I'm 25 now. An adult. This is legal." "Legal?" I stumbled backward. "You're talking about legal? This is sick." "David, she's the child we raised together." "She's the woman I love," David said flatly. "I'm sorry, Anna, but this is happening." I looked at Claire, my daughter, the baby I'd given birth to, the child I'd sacrificed everything for, and saw nothing but satisfaction in her eyes. "You planned this," I whispered. "All of it. Every moment." "I did," Claire said. "And now you're going to leave. Because if you make a scene, if you try to stop this, I'll tell everyone that you've been abusive. That you've been jealous of my relationship with Dad since I was a teenager. That you're mentally unstable. No one will believe that." "They already do," David said quietly. "I've been laying the groundwork for months. Telling our friends you've been acting strange. Paranoid. Jealous. If you fight this, you'll lose everything." My legs gave out. I collapsed on the floor of the bridal suite, my heart shattering into pieces too small to ever reassemble. "Guards," Claire called out. 2 security men appeared. "Please escort my mother out. She's not feeling well." As they lifted me up, I looked at my daughter one last time. "When did you stop being my little girl?" "I was never your little girl, Mom," Claire said. "I was always his." They threw me out of the venue. I sat in my car in the parking lot, shaking, unable to process what had just happened. Through the windows, I could see the wedding proceeding without me. Guests arriving. Music playing. My daughter marrying my husband. I started the car. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove, tears blurring my vision. I never saw the truck that hit me. My last thought was, how did I not see this coming? Then everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I was in a hospital bed, but not as a patient. I was lying down, exhausted, and a nurse was placing a tiny screaming baby on my chest. "Congratulations, Mrs. Chun," the nurse said. "She's beautiful." I looked down at the baby, at Claire, my daughter just born, and I understood. I'd been reborn, not to my own birth but to hers. I was 30 years old again, holding my newborn daughter, with complete memory of the next 25 years. Memory of how she would grow up to seduce my husband and destroy my life. David appeared beside me, younger, handsome, full of love. "She's perfect," he whispered, kissing my forehead. "You did amazing, Anna." I looked at him, the man who would betray me, who would choose our daughter over me, who would let me be thrown out of a wedding venue like trash. And I looked at Claire, hours old, innocent, with no idea who she would become. I had a choice to make. In my original timeline, I'd been a devoted mother. I'd breastfed for 2 years. I'd quit my job to be a stay-at-home mom. I'd homeschooled Claire until she was 8. I'd made her the center of my universe. And she'd used my devotion as a weapon. This time would be different. "I need to talk to you," I told David once we were home from the hospital. "About our arrangement." "What arrangement?" "I'm going back to work in 3 months. I'm hiring a nanny. And we're enrolling Claire in daycare as soon as she's old enough." David looked shocked. "But you said you wanted to be a stay-at-home mom." "We planned this." "Plans change. I'm not giving up my career." In my original timeline, I'd been a promising architect. I'd quit when Claire was born and never returned. By the time she was 25 and I was 55, I'd lost all my professional connections and skills. This time I was keeping both. David looked hurt but eventually agreed. "If that's what you want." "It is." Over the next few months I watched Claire carefully. looking for signs of the monster she would become. But she was just a baby. Crying, eating, sleeping. Normal. Maybe I thought it was my parenting that had created the problem. Maybe if I did things differently, she wouldn't turn into the person who destroyed me. When Claire was 6 months old, David did something that made me freeze. He was holding her, playing with her when he said, "You're going to be so beautiful when you grow up. Just like your mother." "David, she's a baby." "I know. I'm just saying she's going to be stunning." It was innocent. Probably. But I remembered how in my original timeline, David had always commented on Claire's appearance. How pretty she was. How beautiful. How all the boys would want her someday. I thought it was just a proud father. Now I wondered if it was something darker. "Don't talk about her appearance," I said firmly. "What?" "Don't tell her she's pretty or beautiful or anything about her looks. Compliment her intelligence, her kindness, her strength, but not her appearance." David looked confused. "That seems extreme." "I'm serious, David. No comments about her looks." He agreed, though he thought I was being ridiculous. When Claire was 2 years old, she developed a habit that disturbed me. Whenever I tried to hold her, she'd cry and reach for David. Whenever David held her, she'd smile and cling to him. "She's just a daddy's girl," everyone said. But I knew better. In my original timeline, this had been the beginning. Claire had learned early that manipulating David was easy, and that driving a wedge between her parents got her what she wanted. I started enforcing boundaries. When Claire cried for David, I didn't immediately hand her over. When she threw tantrums to get his attention, I let her cry it out. "You're being too harsh," David said. "She's just a toddler. She's learning to manipulate us." "That's insane." "She's 2. But I held firm. When Claire was 5, I caught her lying for the first time. She'd broken a vase and blamed it on the cat. In my original timeline, I'd believed her. This time I confronted her immediately. "Claire, I saw you break the vase. Why are you blaming Whiskers?" Her face. I'll never forget her face. She went through several expressions in rapid succession. Surprise, calculation, then tears. "I didn't mean to lie, Mommy," she sobbed. "I was scared you'd be mad. I'm not mad about the vase. But I am disappointed you lied." "I'm sorry, Mommy. I'll never lie again." But she would. Over and over. And each time she'd get better at it. When Claire was 7, she started playing her parents against each other. She'd tell David I was being mean to her. She'd tell me David said she didn't have to follow my rules. In my original timeline, this had caused constant fights. David and I had grown distant as we each tried to be Claire's favorite parent. This time I recorded everything. When Claire claimed I'd said something I hadn't, I played back the recording. When she claimed David had given her permission he hadn't, I made him confirm it in front of her. "Why are you treating our daughter like a criminal?" David asked after I'd caught Claire in yet another lie. "Because she is one. A little one, but she's learning. And if we don't stop it now, it'll get worse." "You're paranoid, Anna. She's just a normal kid." "No, she's not." But David wouldn't listen. He thought I was being too harsh, too strict, too suspicious. And Claire learned that Daddy was the easier target. When Claire turned 13, everything escalated. Puberty hit, and she transformed from a pretty child into a stunning teenager. Boys started noticing her. Girls became jealous. And David started acting different. It was subtle at first. He'd comment on her outfits. "That skirt's a bit short, don't you think?" He'd offer to drive her places when she could have walked. He'd find excuses to spend time alone with her. In my original timeline, I thought he was just being protective. Now I recognized it for what it was, grooming. "I don't think you should be alone with Claire anymore," I told David one evening. He looked at me like I'd slapped him. "What?" "I think it's inappropriate. The way you look at her. The way you talk to her. She's my daughter. I'm not, I would never." He was furious, defensive. "How dare you accuse me of something so disgusting?" "I'm not accusing. I'm preventing." "You're sick, Anna. You need therapy." Maybe I did. Maybe watching your daughter seduce your husband in one timeline makes you crazy in the next. But I wasn't wrong. I started working longer hours, building my architecture career back up. I'd made partner at my firm when Claire was 10. Now I was being considered for senior partner. "You're never home." David complained. Claire needs her mother. Claire has her mother. She just doesn't have her mother's undivided attention anymore. You've changed, Anna. You used to be so warm, so nurturing. Now you're cold. I'm protecting myself. From what? Your own family. Yes, I wanted to say. From the family that will destroy me. When Claire was 16, I came home early from work one day and found David in her room. The door was closed. I could hear them talking in low voices. I knocked. Silence. Then shuffling. Then David opened the door looking guilty. What were you doing? I asked. Just talking. Claire was upset about a boy at school. Claire was sitting on her bed, looking perfectly composed. No sign of tears. No sign of distress. I'm fine now, Mom, she said. Dad helped. What did Dad help with? Just boy stuff. You wouldn't understand. In my original timeline, I'd accepted this. This time, I installed a camera in the hallway outside Claire's room. 2 weeks later, I reviewed the footage and saw David entering Claire's room at midnight. He didn't leave for 40 minutes. I confronted him the next morning. You're going into Claire's room in the middle of the night. Why? She has nightmares. I comfort her. She's 16. She doesn't need middle of the night comforting. You wouldn't know. You're never here. I'm here enough to know something is wrong. David's face hardened. If you're suggesting what I think you're suggesting, you're even sicker than I thought. I have never and would never do anything inappropriate with my daughter. Then stop going to her room at night. Or what? You'll leave? You'll take her away from me? He laughed bitterly. You can't. And even if you tried, Claire would choose to stay with me. She always does. He was right. And that terrified me. When Claire was 18 and preparing for college, I made a decision. I filed for divorce. Why? David asked, stunned. Because I can't do this anymore. Can't do what? We've barely fought in years. That was because I'd stopped engaging. I'd become a ghost in my own home, working constantly, avoiding both of them. I want a divorce. Claire's an adult now. She can choose who she wants to live with. Anna, please. I know we've had our problems, but we can fix this. No, we can't. Claire took the news differently than I expected. You're leaving? She asked, looking almost disappointed. Yes. But why? Is it because of me and Dad? What about you and Dad? Claire's eyes gleamed. Nothing. I just thought. You've always been jealous of how close we are. I'm not jealous, Claire. I'm sad. Because you should have been closer to me, your mother, than to him. But you were never here. Dad was always here for me. I was working to support this family. You were running away, Claire interrupted. From me. From Dad. From being a real mother. That's not true. Isn't it? The divorce took 2 years to finalize. David fought me on everything. The house. The money. The settlement. But mostly he fought for Claire's loyalty. Not that he needed to fight. Claire had made her choice years ago. When I moved out, Claire stayed with David. I'm an adult, she said. I can choose where I live. Of course you can. You're not going to fight for me? Would it matter if I did? She smiled. No. Over the next 3 years I rebuilt my life. I became senior partner at my firm. I bought a beautiful condo downtown. I dated occasionally, though nothing serious. And I didn't see Claire at all. She called on my birthday. Hi, Mom. Claire. How are you? Fine. You? Good. I'm graduating college next month. Dad's throwing a party. I wanted to invite you. I don't think that's appropriate. Mom, it's been 3 years. Can't we move past this? Past what exactly? Past you abandoning us because you were jealous of me and Dad's relationship. Is that what he told you? It's what happened. Claire, I didn't abandon you. I left a toxic situation to protect myself. Protect yourself from what? From your own daughter loving her father. The way she said loving made my skin crawl. I won't be attending your graduation, I said. But congratulations. I hung up and cried for the first time in years. Not because I missed them, but because I'd failed. Even with all my knowledge, all my preparation, I couldn't prevent what was coming. When Claire was 25, I received a wedding invitation. My heart dropped when I opened it. Claire Chun and David Chun request the honor of your presence at their wedding. So it was happening again. Despite everything I'd done differently, despite all my efforts to prevent it, they were still getting married. I called David. This is sick. Anna, Claire and I love each other. We have for years. She's your stepdaughter. You raised her from birth. Legally, we're not related. And she's an adult who can make her own choices. When did it start, David? When she was 13, 16, or earlier? Silence. You're disgusting, I said. Both of you. I knew you'd react this way. That's why we didn't tell you sooner. I'm going to expose you. Tell everyone what you've done. Tell them what? That two consenting adults fell in love? That you're a bitter ex-wife who can't accept that her daughter and ex-husband found happiness together. David's voice was cold. No one will believe you. They'll think you're jealous. Unhinged. We've already told our friends about your paranoia. Your accusations, your abandonment of Claire when she needed you most. I never abandoned her. Didn't you? You left when she was 18. Missed her entire college experience. Never called, never visited. What kind of mother does that? The kind who was trying to survive. I wanted to scream. Don't come to the wedding, Anna. You're not welcome. He hung up. I sat in my condo staring at the invitation, feeling the same helplessness I'd felt in my original timeline. I tried everything. Distance. Boundaries. Divorce. And still this was happening. Maybe this was fate. Maybe some things couldn't be changed no matter how much you knew. But I couldn't let them win without a fight. I hired a private investigator. I need proof of an inappropriate relationship between my ex-husband and my daughter. How long have they been involved? Years. Possibly since she was a minor. The investigator found nothing illegal. By the time anything physical had happened, if it had, Claire had been 18. An adult. Technically, nothing illegal had occurred. I'm sorry, the investigator said. Without proof of sexual activity while she was a minor, there's nothing criminal here. Just morally questionable. Morally questionable. That was one way to put it. I attended the wedding. Not because I wanted to support them, but because I needed closure. I needed to see if this timeline would end the same way as the last one. I stood in the back of the venue, watching my daughter marry my ex-husband. She looked radiant and white. He looked nervous but happy. And I felt nothing. Not heartbreak. Not rage. Just a deep, tired resignation. After the ceremony, Claire approached me. You came. I did. I didn't think you would. I needed to see it with my own eyes. Are you going to cause a scene? No. You've won, Claire. Congratulations. She looked almost disappointed. That's it? No screaming? No accusations? Would it change anything? No. Then what's the point? Claire studied my face. You're different than I expected. I thought you'd be devastated. I was. In another life, this destroyed me. But I learned something. You can only be destroyed if you give someone that power. What does that mean? It means I built a life without you and David. A good life. A successful life. You two being together doesn't take that away from me. You really don't care? I care that my daughter chose to marry the man who raised her. I care that something went horribly wrong in her development. But I don't care about losing either of you. I lost you both years ago. Claire's face flickered with something. Doubt? Regret? Then it hardened. We're happy. For now. What's that supposed to mean? It means relationships built on toxicity rarely last. But that's not my problem anymore. I walked away from the wedding, got in my car, and drove home to my empty condo. And I realized something. I wasn't dying this time. In my original timeline, I died from the shock and heartbreak of discovering their relationship. This time I'd known it was coming. I'd prepared for it. I'd built a life separate from them. I survived. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of missed calls from David. Anna, we need to talk. It's about Claire. I called him back. What happened? She left. Last night after the wedding. She just left. Took her suitcase and disappeared. What? I don't know where she went. She won't answer her phone. Anna, I'm worried. You're worried. You just married her yesterday. I know. That's why this doesn't make sense. Everything was perfect, and then she just vanished. I felt a cold suspicion forming. David, why do you think she married you? Because she loves me. Does she? Or did she marry you to hurt me? Silence. Think about it, I continued. Her entire life, what has Claire wanted most? I don't know. My attention. My reaction. My pain. She didn't marry you because she loves you, David. She married you because she wanted to destroy me. And when I showed up at the wedding and didn't fall apart, when I congratulated her and walked away, she realized her plan failed. That's insane. Is it? When did she tell you she loved you? It was after you left. After the divorce. When she was 18. Right after I moved out. Yes, but David, she played you. She seduced you to punish me for leaving. And now that it didn't work, she's done with you. I could hear him breathing heavily on the other end. I need to go, he said finally and hung up. 3 days later, I received a call from an unknown number. Mom. Claire. I need to talk to you. Where are you? A hotel. In another city. I made a mistake. Marrying David. All of it. Everything. Her voice broke. Mom, I don't know who I am anymore. Where are you exactly? She gave me an address. I drove 3 hours to meet her. I found her in a cheap motel room, looking nothing like the radiant bride from 3 days ago. She looked small, lost, broken. Why did you come? She asked. Because you're still my daughter. Even after everything. Claire started crying. I don't know why I did it. Any of it. The lying, the manipulation, seducing Dad. When did it start? The inappropriate relationship with David. I was 14, she whispered. He came to my room one night, said he needed to talk. And then, things happened. My blood ran cold. What things? He kissed me, told me I was beautiful, that he'd always found me attractive but knew it was wrong. He said he couldn't help himself. And you didn't tell me? I wanted to, but then he said if I told you it would destroy the family, that you'd blame me, that everyone would hate me. Claire. So I kept quiet, and it kept happening. And over time I convinced myself I wanted it, that I loved him, that this was special and forbidden and romantic. She looked up at me with tears streaming down her face. But it wasn't, was it? He groomed me. He abused me. And I was too young to understand. I sat down heavily on the motel bed. Why didn't you tell me? Because by the time I was old enough to understand what had happened, I'd already driven you away. I'd already chosen him over you. I'd already become someone you couldn't love. I never stopped loving you, Claire. Yes, you did. I saw it in your eyes when I was 7, 8, 9 years old. You looked at me like you were waiting for me to turn into a monster. Like you already knew I was broken. Because I did know. I'd lived through her betrayal once already. I'm sorry, I whispered. For what? For not protecting you. For letting this happen. You tried to protect me. I remember you trying to keep Dad away from me. Setting boundaries. But I fought you on everything because he'd convinced me you were the enemy. Why are you telling me this now? Because I realized at the wedding, when you looked at me with pity instead of pain, that I'd wasted my entire life trying to hurt someone who'd only ever tried to help me. We sat in silence for a long moment. What happens now? I asked. I don't know. I can't go back to him. But I don't know how to move forward either. You could start with therapy. Real therapy where you tell the truth about everything. Will you help me? I looked at my daughter, 25 years old, finally seeing clearly what had been done to her. Yes. But Claire, I need you to understand something. Healing from this will take years. And there's no guarantee we'll ever have a normal mother-daughter relationship. I know. And David needs to face consequences for what he did to you. I can't. You can. You were 14 when it started. He was an adult. Your stepfather. What he did was abuse, Claire. And he needs to answer for it. Claire was quiet for a long time. Then, okay. We went to the police together. Claire gave a statement about the sexual abuse that had begun when she was 14 and continued for years. The police investigated. David was arrested a week later. The trial was brutal. David's lawyers painted Claire as a manipulative seductress. My lawyers presented evidence of grooming. The late-night visits, the inappropriate comments, the gradual escalation. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Guilty on multiple counts of sexual abuse of a minor. David was sentenced to 15 years in prison. When the verdict was read, I watched my ex-husband's face crumble. He looked at Claire with hatred. "You ruined my life," he spat at her. "No," I said, standing up. "You ruined hers. She was a child. You were the adult. You made the choices that led to this moment." As they led him away, I felt something I hadn't felt in either timeline: relief. Over the next 5 years, Claire worked intensively with therapists to process her trauma. She moved back in with me temporarily, and we slowly, painfully rebuilt our relationship. It wasn't easy. We had decades of damage to repair, from both timelines, though Claire only knew about one. But we tried. "Do you blame yourself?" Claire asked me one evening 3 years into her therapy. "For what?" "For not stopping him. For not seeing what was happening." "Every day," I admitted. I stopped myself. I couldn't tell her about the rebirth. I should have done more. "You did everything you could. I'm the one who pushed you away. You were a child being manipulated by an adult predator. That wasn't your fault." Therapy says the same thing. But it's hard to believe. I know. 10 years after the wedding that never was, Claire got married again. This time to a kind man her own age named James. A man who treated her with respect and patience. A man who understood her trauma and supported her healing. I walked her down the aisle this time. And when I placed her hand in James's, I whispered, "Take care of her." "I will," he promised. Claire looked radiant, genuinely happy in a way I'd never seen in my original timeline. "Thank you, Mom," she whispered, "for not giving up on me." "Never," I said. 15 years after David's conviction, he was released from prison. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd tried to contact Claire, but she'd refused all communication. Good. When Claire was 40 and I was 65, I retired from my architecture firm. I'd built a successful career, won numerous awards, designed buildings across the country. But my greatest accomplishment was sitting across from me at dinner. My daughter, healthy and whole, with her husband and 2 children. "Grandma, tell us a story," my grandson said. "What kind of story?" "A scary one." I smiled. Once upon a time, there was a woman who was given a terrible gift. She knew the future. She knew all the bad things that would happen, and she spent years trying to prevent them. "Did she succeed?" my granddaughter asked. I looked at Claire, who was watching me with understanding in her eyes. Some things she prevented, some things she couldn't, but she learned something important. "What?" "That sometimes the bad things have to happen so we can learn to become who we're meant to be." 20 years later, I was 85 years old. Lying in a hospital bed surrounded by my family. Claire sat beside me holding my hand. Her children, now adults, stood nearby with their own families. "Mom," Claire said softly, "can I tell you something?" "Of course." "I had the strangest dream last night. I dreamed that in another life I married Dad. That I hurt you so badly you died. That I never got help, never healed, never understood what he'd done to me." I felt tears slip down my face. "That wasn't a dream, sweetheart." "What?" "In another timeline, all of that happened. You married David. I died from heartbreak. And you never found healing." "How do you know?" "Because I lived it. I died, and then I was reborn to your birth. I tried to prevent everything. I tried so hard." "Is that why you always seemed to know? Why you were so protective? Why you saw through my lies when no one else did?" "Yes." Claire was crying now. "You went through all of that? Knowing what I would become? And you still didn't give up on me?" "I couldn't. You're my daughter. In every timeline, in every life, you're my daughter." "I'm sorry, Mom. For both timelines." "I'm not. Because this timeline gave us this, a real relationship, built on truth and healing. That was worth everything." My grandson leaned in. "Grandma, are you saying you time traveled?" I smiled. "In a way. Or maybe I just got a second chance. Either way, I used it to save the person I loved most." I died 3 days later peacefully, surrounded by the family I'd fought so hard to save. At my funeral, Claire gave the eulogy. "My mother was the strongest person I ever knew. She saw darkness coming and stood in front of it. She saw me falling and caught me, even when I fought her every step of the way. She knew the worst version of me and loved me anyway. She knew the worst version of my future and changed it. She taught me that we're not defined by our traumas or our mistakes, but by our choices to heal and grow. She taught me that love doesn't mean enabling or accepting abuse. It means having the courage to set boundaries and demand better. She taught me that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from toxicity, even when it's your own family. My mother saved my life. Not once but twice in ways I didn't understand until recently. She was my hero, my protector, my greatest advocate. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to be half the woman she was. After the funeral, Claire's daughter, my granddaughter Emma, found a letter I'd left for her. Dear Emma, it read. I'm writing this to you because I want you to understand something about your grandmother's life. Both lives. In my first life, I died at 55, heartbroken and alone, destroyed by betrayals I never saw coming. In my second life, I lived to 85, surrounded by love, having saved my daughter from a fate worse than death. The difference wasn't luck. It was choice. I chose to set boundaries. I chose to build a life independent of my family's dysfunction. I chose to keep fighting even when it seemed hopeless. Most importantly, I chose to believe that people can heal if given the right support and opportunities. Your grandmother Claire was groomed and abused by the man who should have protected her. But she healed. She built a beautiful life. She became an amazing mother to you. That's the legacy I'm leaving you. Not perfection but resilience. Not the absence of trauma but the courage to heal from it. If you take nothing else from my life, take this. You are not defined by the worst things that happen to you. You are defined by how you respond to them. Choose healing. Choose boundaries. Choose yourself. And when you become a mother someday, remember that the greatest gift you can give your children is teaching them their worth. Not through words, but through your own example of refusing to accept less than you deserve.